me start off by saying that it's a great privilege for me to be with you and to share my thoughts and ideas. I was talking to someone and saying, I usually address huge crowds of people, sometimes even 500 people at a time. And yet I feel more nervous in my gut doing it in a smaller and intimate group. So I'm sure it will go well. And I really appreciate having you here. Just a little bit of background. I'm sure in the communication that you got a sense of who I am. My name is Tabea Kabinde. I am in the HR and OD space, running a company that does recruitment as well as HR and OD work. But in my other life, I also am the chairperson of the Commission for Employment Equity, and that's one thing that I'm extremely passionate about, and I'm going to share some of the ideas around that with you today. I'm also a student, a mom, and a wife. So it's really a great privilege to have you here with me. This is an informal session, and it's a session where we can really exchange ideas. That's really the purpose. So that you walk away feeling that it was enriching and added value to you, even if it's not just from me, but the other people in the room. I remember when I graduated my undergrad degree, it was 1987 with Andiswa. So we were all so preoccupied with having these dresses that match our hoods and the high heels. I don't do high heels so well, and I had to wear a high pair of heels, and I really tried to emulate something that I'm not. And for me, it really is fantastic that we are at a place where one can really be who you are. And that's what we seek. We seek a world that enables us and to be who we are and to feel at home with who we are without feeling apologetic about it. And that's what we seek in our workplaces as well. Hopefully, we will be there soon. So, we said we're going to speak about transformation and barriers to transformation and possibly share some ideas, but I think it's quite important to just share a little bit of perspective. So, if I can start with our Constitution. The Constitution in Section 9 gives us the equality clauses. And basically what they do is to seek to redress the imbalances of the past and to create an environment where everybody, all South Africans, can say South Africa for all. So out of Section 9 came a number of legislations, the one being the Prevention of Discrimination and Promotion of Equality Act, often called PEPUDA Act. Then we also had the Labor Relations Act, the Basic Conditions, the amendments to those two, the Employment Equity Act, and the BEE Act. So those were the pieces of legislation that sought to address Section 9 of the Constitution. Interestingly, the Employment Equity Act really came after the amendment to the Labor Relations Act and the Basic Conditions of Employment. But what it seeks to do is that it seeks to restore human dignity for the majority of South Africans, promoting equality and fair treatment in the world of work. And it seeks to abolish unfair discrimination in the workplace. And if you read the Act, you'll see there is what we call listed grounds, which really are a number of reasons why people would be discriminated against in the past. And then with the amendments, what we did was that we introduced what we call unlisted grounds as well. Because it has been for very long known that people are discriminated against because either they have a different sexual orientation, they're of a different race, they're female, different religion. But then there could be other reasons why people are discriminated against that we don't know of, okay? So when I moved out of home, the first thing that I did was to get my dreads because my dad hated dreads. And when I got my dreads and I started my business, he said to me, "You'll never make it as a business person with those dreads." Now, picture my dad as my employer at the time, obviously he would not take a liking to me, you know. So that is an unlisted ground, you know. And, you know, I could go into the technicalities of how you deal with that in the CCMA, but I think broadly speaking, I can just stay with the purpose of the Act and what it seeks to achieve. But we had to go beyond that to say there are times when people are discriminated against for reasons that are not so obvious, and they need to be protected from that. So in 1997, when the Act was about to be enacted and the bill was put in place, Tito Mboweni, who was then the Minister of Labour, said the following: "We want to build a South Africa with a diverse and representative workforce. We want to abolish discrimination in the workplace. Let this bill be a subject for debate in every workplace by all workers and all employers." And for me, I think we often lose sight of where we started. Because we started at a place where we were saying, like any other legislation, let there be debate. Let there be open and transparent discussions about it. And one of the things that I've experienced when moving from one employer to another is that there seems to be a hushness around employment equity. And if you look at this, that was not the spirit. You know, employers were to engage with their workers around the issue. And my experience is the more you engage, the more you get out of transformation. So what I have here is what we call the EAP. EAP stands for the Economically Active Population. Sorry, it's got the AEP, it's EAP. And basically what it is the people that are either employed or those that are seeking employment. So if I look at people who have been seeking employment for 10 years and they give up and say, I'm not even going to try, that's not economically active. So we're talking here about people who are still wanting to be employed and those that are employed. That's the economically active population. So just to talk very quickly through it, African males make up 42.8% of that population, whilst the African females make 36%, giving us a total of 78.8%. The colored population, male is 5.2, the female is 4.4, giving us 9.6. The Indian population, 1.7 and 1.1 female, giving us a total of 2.7, and the white population, male would be 5.1 and females would be 3.9, giving us the total of 100%. You'll see that 54.7% of the total workforce and people looking for jobs is made up of males, and the females make 45.3%. So why is this important? This is critical, and we look at it every year. It's information that we get from Stats SA. It's information that we use as a benchmark to say, this is what the world of work should look like. Okay? So what we often say is, even at different occupational levels, we should reflect this. Okay, so if you look at top management, it should look like this when we put all the reports together. If we look at the colored population, it should look like this. But then we're not at this place. When we talk about representativity, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the occupational levels, right from top management to the unskilled level, being representative of the EAP. Now, to give you just a picture, I could go through each occupational level. So what I'm going to share with you now is a trend analysis of the past 3 years. By the way, this year, in a few months, we will be launching the 2018 report, which tells us what happened last year. We always launch the previous year. So the latest information that is in the public domain is the 2017 information. And at the time, we did an analysis from 2015 to 2018. And if you look at this, remember what I said about the African population, 78.8, and at top management, look where they are as compared to the white population. So you can see that there's still an imbalance at top management in terms of representativity. And people often say, so when is the sunset clause? Meaning, at what point are we going to do away with employment equity? Because employment equity is a temporary measure. So people are often asking that question. But remember, if we sought to redress and to be representative, we cannot do away with it until we feel we are at that place where we are representative. So you can see that the journey is still quite long. Then talking about comparison, this is also a study that we did last year. Comparing from 2001 to 2017, last year, the Employment Equity Act had been in place for 20 years. However, why we started at 2001 was because it was the first time that there was proper reporting. And that's the data that we have. So you'll see the comparison is of 16 years. But what we found is that at the top 4 levels of the labor force, the South African workforce, there's been a trend of only 1%, 1 percentage point shift per annum. So that just shows you the pace at which we're changing. We literally, and it's a trend that continues. When we analyzed the latest, there's quite a big shift here, but these two still remain at 1%. So that's very, very interesting. And it just sets the tone for how transformation is playing itself out in the world of work in South Africa.
Technically skilled, what's your definition there?
Junior management. So that would be top management, senior management, middle management, and technically skilled would be the junior management. But in the reporting, you would report them like this.